नमो ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमद हिज डिवाइन ग्रेस एसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, I hope all you are doing well. Today we'll be reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 3. Yesterday we completed text 2 and day before yesterday we read text 1. So I hope all you have listened, understood properly. Now if you have not listened, you can check out our playlist. So today we'll be reading chapter 9 text 3. So before we start, let's pray first. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritam Naranchaivo Narattvamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tatam Jayamudiraye. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. नमो ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. So let's begin. Please listen very carefully. Very important text. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 3. अश्रद्धा धन अश्रद्धा धन अश्रद्धा धन पुरुषा अश्रद्धा धन पुरुषा धर्मस्य परन्तप धर्मस्य परन्तप अश्रद्धा धन पुरुषा धर्मस्य परन्तप अप्राप्यो मां निवर्तन्ते अप्राप्यो मां निवर्तन्ते मृत्यु संसार व्रतमामि मृत्यु संसार व्रतमामि अश्रद्धाधान पुरुषा धर्मस्य परन्तप अप्राप्यो मां निवर्तन्ते मृत्यु संसार व्रतमामि अश्रद्धाधान पुरुषा धर्मस्य परन्तप अप्राप्यो मां निवर्तन्ते मृत्यु संसार व्रतमामि. Synonyms: Ashraddhadhana, those who are faithless. Purusha, such person. Dharmasya, towards the process of religion. As Dharmasya, asya means this. Parantapa, Parantapa means a killer of enemies. Aprapya, Aprapya means without obtaining. Mam means mean. Nivartante, Nivartante means come back. Mrityu, Mrityu means of death. Samsara, Samsara means in the material existence. Vratamami, Vratamami on the path. So, translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Those who are faithless in devotional service cannot attain me, O conqueror of enemies. Therefore, they return to the path of birth and death in this material world. Those who are faithless in devotional service cannot attain me, O conqueror of enemies. Therefore, they return to the path of birth and death in this material world. Those who are faithless in this devotional service cannot attain me, O conqueror of enemies. Therefore, they return to the path of birth and death in this material world. Purport: the faithless cannot accomplish the process of devotional service. That is the purport of this verse. Faith is created by association with devotees. Unfortunate people, even after hearing all the evidence of Vedic literature from the great personality, still have no faith in God. They are hesitate and cannot stay fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. Thus, faith is most important factor in progress in the Krishna consciousness. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that faith is the complete conviction that simply by serving the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, one can achieve all perfection. That is called real faith. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, जथा तरोर्मुलो निसेचनेन तृप्तन्ति तत्स्कन्धभुजोपशाखा प्राणोपहारा च जतीन्द्रियाणां तथैव सर्वहनम् अच्युतेजा सर्वहरम् Achuteja. By giving water to the root of the tree, one satisfies its branches, twigs, and leaves. And by supplying food to the stomach, one satisfied all the senses of the body. Similarly, by engaging in the transcendental service of the Supreme Lord, one automatically satisfies all the demigods and all other living entity. Therefore, after reading Bhagavad Gita, one should promptly come to the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita. One should give up all other engagement, and adopt the service of Supreme Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead. If one is convinced of this philosophy of life, that is faith. Now, development of the faith is the process of Krishna consciousness. There are three divisions of Krishna conscious men. In the third class are those who have no faith. Even if they are officially engaged in devotional service, they cannot achieve the highest perfectional stage. Most probably, they will sleep after some time. They may become engaged, but because they have not complete conviction and faith, it is very difficult to them to continue in Krishna consciousness. We have practical experience in discharging our missionary activity that some people come and apply themselves to Krishna consciousness with some hidden motive, and as soon as they are economically a little well situated, they give up the process and take to their old way again. It is only by faith that one can advance in Krishna consciousness. As far as the development of faith is concerned, one who is well versed in the literature of devotional service has attained the stage of firm faith is called first class person in Krishna consciousness. And in second class are those who are not very advanced in understanding the devotional scripture, but who automatically have firm faith in Krishna bhakti or service to Krishna is the best course, and so in good faith have taken it up. Thus, they are superior to the third class, who have neither perfect knowledge in the scripture nor good faith, but the association simply trying to follow. Third class person in the Krishna consciousness may fall down, but when one is in the second class, he does not fall down. For the first class person in Krishna consciousness, there is no chance of falling down. One in the first class will surely make progress and achieve the result at the end. As far as the third class person in Krishna consciousness is concerned, although he has faith in the conviction that devotional service to Krishna is very good, he has not yet gained adequate knowledge of Krishna through the scripture like Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. Sometimes these third class person in Krishna consciousness have some tendency towards the Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and sometimes they have disturbed. But as soon as the infection of Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga is vanquished, they come to the second class or first class person in Krishna consciousness. Faith in Krishna is also divided into three stages as described in the Srimad Bhagavatam. First class attachment, second class attachment, third class attachment also explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. In 11th canto, those who have no faith, even after hearing about Krishna and the excellence of devotional service, who think that it is simply eulogy, find the path very difficult even if they are supposedly engaged in devotional service. For them, there is very little hope of gaining perfection. Thus, faith is very important in the discharge of devotional service. So here we conclude the reading of Bhaktivedanta Purport from the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. I hope all you understood. So let's jump into the insight. We have made separate video and audio presentation for you, and we are attaching both of it with the original one. Please listen till the end. You must have got the better understanding. So thank you very much for the day, and Hare Krishna.
Hey, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we are diving into a spiritual text that has a really stark, no-nonsense message. It basically says that on a devotional path, faith isn't just a nice to have, it's literally everything. So, let's break down why it draws such a clear line in the sand. So the source kicks things off with this incredibly direct and pretty serious statement. Right off the bat, it's telling us that from this point of view, faith isn't just some helpful quality. Nope, it's the absolute deciding factor. It's what separates attaining a divine connection from returning to the cycle of birth and death. So yeah, the text really doesn't mince words, does it? It immediately lays out this clear, unwavering consequence for anyone who doesn't have the required faith. And we're not talking about small slip-ups here. This is about the ultimate outcome of your entire spiritual journey. Now, what's really fascinating is the specific language it uses, mrityu samsara vartmani. This phrase basically frames the world we live in as a repetitive, looping path of death and existence. So the point is, faith is presented as the one and only tool you need to break free from that cycle. I mean, the stakes just couldn't be any higher.
Okay, so this all leads to a pretty obvious question. If faith is that essential, what does this text actually mean when it says faith? Because it's clearly not talking about just a casual belief. The source gives us a very, very specific definition of what it considers real faith.
And there you have it. Real faith, according to this, is a complete conviction. It's the absolute certainty that just by serving the Supreme Lord, named here as Sri Krishna, that's all you need to do to achieve perfection. It's an all-in, total trust in the process. You know, that's a pretty big concept to wrap your head around. So to make it more concrete, the text gives us this beautiful and really practical analogy. It compares this singular act of devotion to something we all understand, watering a tree. And this just brilliantly lays out the logic. Think about it. You water the root of a tree, and what happens? Every single other part of the tree, the branches, the twigs, the leaves, it all gets nourished automatically. The text argues that it's the exact same principle here. You engage in service to the Supreme Lord, and boom, every other being is satisfied. It's all about focused effort, creating a universal benefit. All right, so let's see where this goes next. Now that we have this solid definition of faith, the source actually classifies devotees into 3 different categories, and it's all based on the quality and the firmness of their faith. So here's how it breaks down. You've got your first-class devotee. They're well-versed in the scriptures. Their faith is totally unshakable. Then there's the second class. They might not be as much of a scholar, but they have this natural, firm faith. And then you get to the third class. And this is where it gets a bit shaky. Their knowledge is lacking, their faith is weaker, and that puts them at risk. The text really zeroes in on the difference between that second and third class. The second-class devotee, they're stable. Their faith just works. It's automatic. But the third-class devotee, who might just be following along because of their friends or out of simplicity, well, they're vulnerable. That weaker conviction means they can get easily disturbed or even pulled off the path entirely. Which leads us to a really critical question then. What are the actual dangers that this third-class devotee is up against? The source material is super specific about the potential pitfalls. And here are the risks laid right out. The text suggests they could just slip away after a while, maybe because they had other motives, like making money. They're easily thrown off by other philosophies, and because of all that instability, their progress is described as very difficult, with, and this is harsh, very little hope of ever reaching perfection. So after breaking down these different levels, the text brings it all back home to one core unifying principle. This is the foundation for any progress at all, no matter which class you might fall into. This quote right here, this is basically the thesis statement for the entire passage. It flat out says that faith is the most important factor. Not just one of the important ones, but the crucial, number one element for moving forward on this specific spiritual path. So here's the bottom line. Across all 3 tiers, from the top-tier scholar to the brand-new follower, the source identifies this one single thing, faith, as the primary engine for any kind of advancement, period. But wait, it doesn't stop there. The text gives us one final, really fascinating piece of insight. It claims that this essential faith, it isn't just some feeling that pops up out of nowhere. It's actively created through a very specific process, by associating with other devotees. And that just leaves us with this really big idea to chew on, doesn't it? If faith, this complete conviction, is something that's built through community and shared experience, what does that tell us about the nature of belief itself? Is it purely an individual thing, or is it something that's fundamentally social, something we build together? That's definitely something worth thinking about.
Now we completed the video presentation. Let's begin with audio podcast.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're really getting into something foundational. It's about the absolute necessity of faith in devotional practice.
Exactly. We're looking at sources like the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam.
Caitanya Caritam.
Right. And they give us a very specific roadmap defining what this faith is and, crucially, what happens if it's not there.
Okay, so that's our mission for this deep dive. Unpack what the sources say about faith. How is it defined? How do you get it? And, yeah, what are the stakes? What are the consequences if you lack it?
Well, let's start right there with the stakes. The Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verse 3. It's pretty direct.
Okay.
It talks about Ashadhana Puru people who are faithless in this specific path, this devotional service.
Faithless. And the consequence?
The consequence is clear. They cannot attain the supreme, can't reach the goal.
Cannot attain the supreme. What does that mean, practically speaking, for someone listening? What happens to them?
It means they stay stuck. The verse says they return to the path of birth and death in this material world. The term used is metu sasuravartmani. It's quite technical, but it means you're basically stuck in the cycle. Birth, death, rebirth. Faithlessness locks you into that repetition. It prevents the highest stage.
Wow. Okay, so faith isn't just a nice to have. It's the key differentiator between, well, liberation and staying on the wheel.
Precisely. It puts a huge premium on it.
So if it's that critical, we absolutely need to know, what exactly is this faith, this shraddha, and where does it come from? Is it just spontaneous?
No, not spontaneous at all, according to these texts. It's actively cultivated. It's consistently described as the most important factor for making progress in Kalantar consciousness.
The most important. Okay.
And it doesn't just materialize. The sources are very specific. Faith is created through association with devotees.
Right. Being around others who have that conviction, it rubs off, so to speak.
Exactly. That association provides the fertile ground for faith to actually take root and grow.
Okay. Association helps cultivate it. But what is it at its core? What's the working definition of real, solid faith?
The Caitanya Caritamrita gives us, I think, the clearest definition. It says real faith is the complete conviction.
Complete conviction?
That simply by serving the Supreme Lord, Srikhan, you can achieve all perfection.
All perfection, not just some spiritual goal, but everything.
Everything. That's the key. It's the logical endpoint, really, of the Bhagavad Gita's message. Give up all your other duties, your other engagements.
Social, religious, whatever.
Yes, all of that. And just adopt the service of the Supreme Lord, Kanam focus service.
Now, that sounds, well, honestly, pretty radical in today's world. Give up all other engagements. The immediate reaction for many listening might be, isn't that incredibly risky? What happens to everything else?
It's a natural question. And that's why the sources don't just state it. They provide really helpful analogies to show why this focused approach is not only safe, but actually the most efficient way.
Okay, efficiency. The philosophy behind it is called asyutija, right? Service to the infallible Lord.
That's the term.
So let's unpack the logic. The Srimad Bhagavatam gives us some key analogies here.
It does. Two really powerful ones that illustrate this principle. First, think about a tree.
Okay.
If you just water the root of the tree, what happens?
Well, the whole tree gets nourished, the branches, leaves, everything.
Exactly. You satisfy the entire system just by focusing on the source, the root. You don't need to water each leaf separately.
Right, that'd be impossible. Okay, analogy one, water the root. What's the second?
The second is even more direct, perhaps, your own body. How do you nourish it?
You eat. You put food in your stomach.
Right. By supplying food only to the stomach, the central processing unit, you automatically nourish and satisfy all the senses, all the limbs. You don't need separate injections for your eyes or hands.
Okay, I see the pattern. Focus on the central point. So applying this, the idea is if you focus your energy, your service, on the ultimate root, the ultimate stomach, meaning the Supreme Lord.
Then all other obligations, relationships, even duties towards, say, demigods or other living beings, they are automatically taken care of.
That's quite a claim. It's a comprehensive, almost holistic solution through a single point of focus.
That's the philosophical conclusion. Service to the Supreme automatically satisfies everyone and everything else because they're all connected to and sustained by that central source. And the conviction that this system works, that's faith. Stabilizing that conviction, that's the practice.
Okay. But, we see in practice, it's not always that stable for everyone, is it? People start, they seem enthusiastic, but then they drift away.
Right.
Often the texts mentioned, because they came in with maybe some hidden motive, like wanting financial stability or maybe social acceptance. And once they get that,
The spiritual practice sort of fades into the background.
exactly.
Yeah.
So this tells us faith isn't just an on-off switch. It exists in different degrees, different levels of stability.
Yes, and this is where the texts provide a really useful framework, a classification system. It outlines three basic divisions of people engaged in Krenina consciousness, based primarily on the quality of their faith and also their scriptural understanding.
A classification system, okay, like a way to self-assess maybe. Where are your potential weak spots?
Precisely. It helps understand the dynamics.
Let's start at the top then, the first class. What defines someone in this category?
The first class person is characterized by maximum stability. Two key things define them. First, they are well-versed in the scriptures, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, the core texts. They understand the philosophy deeply.
Okay, knowledge is one part.
Second, and just as important, they've achieved firm faith, unshakable conviction based on that knowledge.
So deep knowledge plus solid conviction.
Right, and the result, their progress is essentially guaranteed. The sources say they will surely achieve the ultimate goal, and critically, there is no chance of falling down.
No chance. That's a strong statement. Okay, that's the ideal. Knowledge supporting faith. Now, the second class is interesting because, as I understand it, they might be missing one of those elements but are still considered safe.
That's right. The second class person is defined as someone who is not necessarily very advanced in understanding the scriptures. They might not be able to debate all the finer philosophical points.
Okay, less intellectual grounding, perhaps.
But, and this is crucial, they automatically possess firm faith that serving kana, kamakti, is the best thing to do. They just accept it wholeheartedly. They've taken it up in good faith, maybe based on their association.
So the conviction is there, even without all the detailed knowledge.
Yes. And importantly, that firm conviction is enough. Like the first class, the sources state they also do not fall down. They are considered superior to the next category.
That's fascinating. It really suggests, doesn't it, that the firmness of the faith itself might be a more critical initial safeguard than, say, academic mastery of the texts.
It certainly points in that direction. You can know everything but if your faith wavers, whereas simple, solid faith provides protection.
Which brings us to the third class. This sounds like the vulnerable group.
It is. The third class is defined by having neither deep scriptural knowledge nor really firm faith. They're trying, often drawn in by the association, perhaps out of a sense of simplicity or just following along.
Just going through the motions, maybe? Mimicking others?
To some extent, yes. Their conviction isn't deeply rooted in that philosophical understanding we talked about, the efficiency of focused service.
And that makes them vulnerable. Why? What specifically tempts them or causes them to fall?
Because their faith isn't solid, they're easily swayed by other approaches that might seem easier or promise more immediate, tangible results. The texts specifically mention tendencies towards karma yoga or jnana yoga.
Okay, let's quickly break those down for the listener. What does karma yoga look like in this context for someone whose faith is shaky?
Karma yoga here essentially means getting caught up in activity for its fruits, for personal gain. So the third-class person might still have lingering desires for, wealth, prestige, recognition, things separate from pure devotion.
So they might start thinking, let me just sort out my career first, then I'll get serious about spiritual life, using the practice as a tool for material ends.
Exactly. The devotion becomes secondary, a means to an end, not the end itself. That's the karma yoga deviation pulling them.
Okay, and the other one, jnana yoga.
Jnana yoga is the path of philosophical speculation, trying to understand truth through mental effort alone, often leading towards an impersonal conception of the absolute.
Intellectualism without the heart connection.
Sort of. For the third-class person, this can be appealing because it might feel intellectually stimulating, maybe less demanding in terms of personal surrender than focused devotional service. They get sidetracked by debates, mental gymnastics, or impersonal meditation goals.
So basically they get disturbed, as the text says, pulled between the ideal of devotion and these other desires or intellectual paths.
Precisely. They can only really start advancing firmly when that infection, as it's sometimes called, those distracting tendencies, is overcome. The risk of falling down for this third class is significant. They may fall down.
A precarious position. And there's one more category, or maybe it's outside the classification of practitioners entirely.
Yes. The sources mention those who, even after hearing all the explanations, all the evidence about the value of devotional service, that They still have no faith.
They just don't buy it.
Right. They tend to think it's all just eulogy, exaggerated praise, nice poetry, but no real substance.
Flowery language, nothing more.
Yeah. For such individuals, because they reject the very foundation, the path is described as extremely difficult. There's very little hope, the texts say, of them gaining perfection, even if they seem to be involved superficially.
That's a sobering point. Okay, so we've covered this whole spectrum, from the first class, totally secure, down to the third class, who are at risk. And even those who reject it outright. What's the main takeaway for you listening to this?
I think the key thing is that faith isn't static. It's not just something you have or don't have. It's an active quality, and its depth directly relates to your stability in spiritual life.
So if you feel shaky in your practice, maybe the first place to look is the quality of your conviction.
That's what the sources suggest. Go back to that core definition. Do you really have conviction that serving clean, focusing there, takes care of everything? That asyute principle.
And remember, the first class has firm faith and the knowledge. The second class has just the firm faith. But both are protected. The third class lacks both and is vulnerable.
Correct. Their faith is weaker, more easily disturbed.
Which leaves us with a really interesting, maybe provocative thought for you to consider. We've heard that the second-class person, who might lack deep scriptural study but possesses firm, simple faith, they cannot fall down.
Right. Protected by that conviction.
So does this imply that when you're starting out, maybe that pure automatic conviction, that simple acceptance and surrender is actually more vital, more protective than accumulating a vast amount of intellectual knowledge? Is the depth of the heart's conviction more important than the breadth of the mind's understanding, at least initially?
It certainly raises the question about the relative weight of simple, sincere faith versus intellectual prowess on this path.
Something for you to think about as you reflect on your own journey and the nature of your own conviction. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.